This show made me tear up more than anything else this year. Hello once again, watchers of Good TV. My name is Nick Pell and this is once again coming from my apartment. Now today we are going to be talking about Season 1 of This Is Us. This Is Us is an Emmy Award-winning show which had a full first season on NBC. And it's very, very interesting because it's one of the more unique shows on TV. It's not filled with superheroes, it's not filled with a lot of comedic moments like comedies and whatnot. It is a very grounded, real show which shows the real lives of people. I think that's something to be really admired because it's really rare for shows to do that these days. But let's dive into this thing. I will also say this, I'm going to be talking about the entire season as a whole, so if you have not finished Season 1 of This Is Us, probably walk away right now and come back to this after you finished up the finale, because spoilers are a thing. You don't want those. Now I have to mention the pilot. The pilot was the most surprising thing, I think, which really captivated people and made people want to engage in the show and see what was going to happen. Because we are introduced to our 5 main characters. We have Jack, Rebecca, Randall, Kevin, and Kate. And we are introduced to their lives, we introduce them as people, and then it's at the very end of that episode when Jack is in the hospital, his wife has just given birth, he has lost one child, and we see that we have a black baby which has been brought to the fire station and is now resting next to his other 2 children. That we realize that Jack and Rebecca, their storylines taking place in the 80s, while we have Randall, Kate, and Kevin's storylines taking place in present day. And so that's where you realize, oh hey, these are their parents, and it's just a very interesting way to tell a story. And it helps immensely that it has really strong characters and really strong performances. Milo Ventimiglia, he plays Jack. He does a fantastic job in this role. I mainly know him from Heroes. A lot of people around my age will probably know him from Heroes. He does a very different character than he did on that show, and it's really, really good. And he does a really good job capturing this guy who really wants to support his wife. He really wants to be a good guy and do really good things and support his family and everything. But he's also very torn because he comes from kind of a dark background where he didn't have the best father or the best childhood. And he makes for a really interesting character as a result. I really enjoyed the scenes with him and Rebecca as well, his wife played by Mandy Moore. And they just work really well as a couple. And the majority of the season, they show them as essentially this perfect couple. They have their little spats, their fights every so often, but it's nothing huge, and it's something which is really to be admired and something which I think a lot of people should try to move towards, or at least aim for in a relationship. Just this ideal that they show at the first half of the season. Because in the second half, it makes it more realistic as well, because we see more of the fights come out, and they talk about how their kids saw them as this perfect couple, this perfect marriage. But in reality, as in with most relationships and marriages, it's not perfect. People fight, people have spats, and it comes to a head in the finale, which I'll talk about later. We also have Randall, and his main plotline of the season is his newfound relationship with his father, William. And I thought that their relationship, him, played by Sterling Brown, and Ron Jones, who plays William, their chemistry in this season was very, very good, because you have William starting out as this very uncomfortable person. He's been absent from his son's life for almost its entirety, and he's never gotten to know his son, and it's something which he's deeply regretted. When he is sought out by his son and discovered, he is welcomed into their family, and it's just something really, really neat to see, and just see him begin to grow with Randall's wife and Randall himself and their kids, and see the musical influences which just caused him to become the person that he is today, and the hardships which he endured. And I really enjoyed those aspects of his character, and I was really sad to see him eventually die in the close to the finale episode, because that was a very powerful episode. And I think that the show's use of flashbacks in that scene are very, very good, because you have things that are called back from, such as Jack, when Randall was young, he has these really bad panic attacks, and so what he would do is just hold his face and tell him that's going to be okay, and tell him to keep breathing heavily. And when William was scared to die, that's what Randall did. And it was just really, really cool to see that come full circle to an extent. And that's another thing. The flashbacks that the show uses are very, very cool, because it doesn't just form a straight timeline, at least with Jack and Rebecca's story. It bounces around a lot, because we get to see them before they even decide to have kids. We get to see them when she is pregnant. We get to see them when the kids are just infants, when they're like in their pre-teen ages, and then we get to see them when they're teenagers to an extent, and it's just really cool to see these different timelines show kind of how they're influencing their current lives now, and it's just kind of, it's cool to see. It's a very rare show that does that really, really well. Kate's story is another one. She is an overweight woman who desperately wants to lose that weight, and when she goes to a meeting to talk about it, she's introduced to Toby, and they form a relationship, and that is essentially her arc of the season. Trying to lose the weight, and then also forming and developing her relationship with Toby, who is a very free-spirited person, also overweight, but he has this charm to him which you really appreciate, and how he gets along with both Kate in a romantic way, as well as Kevin, who she's very close to, in kind of a sarcastic brother-in-law-esque type of way to an extent. I thought that was really fun to see, and he's just a really fun character who I'm excited to see continue on to season 2 and see what continues to develop with their relationship. And then lastly, we have Kevin. Kevin is someone who I found to be the most interesting character, I think, on the show outside of Jack, because he is somebody who we see the most growth from, I would say, throughout the course of the season, because he's very arrogant to start out with, but we are introduced to him when he is very fed up with his job. He doesn't like doing this comedy show called The Manny, where he is the star and he's this joke. He's this actor who's on this really funny show, a successful show, but he wants to be taken seriously, and so he quits that and goes to New York to pursue a Broadway play, and that's where the majority of his arc takes place this season. As a result, he's able to spend a lot of time with Randall while he has to leave Kate in Los Angeles, and it's just really kind of a cool plotline that he goes through as he learns to find himself, be more appreciated as an actor, and change who he is so he's not as much of a dick. And it's just a really cool plotline, especially when we have that scene with him and Toby where he has to decide which of these two women am I going to pursue, and he ends up choosing neither of them and going after his ex-wife, which I don't think even knew was a thing. And so the back half of the season focuses on their relationship and him trying to win her back, and then the opening parts of their new relationship. And so like I said, overall the relationships and the characters and performances in this show are very, very strong, and they just make for some really entertaining TV, because like I said, there's a lot of tiebacks. The flashbacks really help to influence the show as it is, and it just works really phenomenally well. There are emotional scenes, there are funny scenes, there are dramatic scenes, and it all just works fantastically. Now I'll jump into the finale, which aired tonight as I'm filming this. And this episode mainly focused on Jack and Rebecca. It had very, very little to do with the actual kids. A lot of people before this episode predicted that this would be the episode where we find out how Jack dies, because that is something which has just been plaguing people over the course of the season once we found out that Jack has died when these kids are teenagers. We also know from an earlier episode that Kate feels immensely responsible for it, that she had to go through a lot of therapy because she feels responsible for some reason for her father's death, and we don't know why. So this episode is very much supposed to apparently tell us how Jack died. Nope. Yeah, whole episode just waiting to see how he ends up getting killed, and he doesn't get killed. And so we're going to be waiting until next season, apparently, to figure out how that happens. But there are a couple things with this episode that I want to point out. The fight that Jack and Rebecca have after they get home, she quits the tour, and they go home. And that is one of the best acting scenes that I've seen in a long time on TV, because we have these two people who've just bottled up so much with their relationship that they just haven't felt like they could say out loud, and it just all comes pouring out in one long fight where you can't even tell what people are saying half the time, because you just have to try to listen to either one side or the other as these two people are just yelling everything that they've been feeling and bottling up for so long, and it just comes to a head, and it results in Jack having to leave the house for however long. I did like Jack's final speech where he tells her, "I still love you immensely," essentially, and that their love story is still just beginning. And so I think that Jack will probably be around for at least a little while longer. Maybe they'll come off in some unexpected fashion, some random episode, or he will be a mid-season finale kill or the season 2 finale kill. We don't know. We don't know how it'll happen or when it'll happen or why it happens. And so it's just one of the biggest questions that the show has yet to cover. And last, I liked how the finale really finished off the kids' stories. We get to see what they're going to ultimately be leading into with the next season. We have Kate, who's decided to become a singer, following in the footsteps of her mother. We have Randall, who has been inspired by William and decided that he wants to adopt a kid. We have Kevin, who has decided to go after Ron Howard's movie offer in LA, which is following in the footsteps of what ultimately broke up him and Sophie in the first place with their first marriage. And so it'll be really interesting to see how their relationship continues to evolve with that new element brought in. See if Kevin can control himself and not cheat on her this time, or if maybe she does something. We don't know. And it'll be really interesting to see how that story plays out. I find Kevin to be ultimately the most interesting character, maybe after Jack, because he seems the most conflicted, and he seems like the person ultimately trying to do the most right in his life, trying to make amends for what he's done. But guys, those are ultimately my thoughts on This Is Us Season 1. I really enjoyed it. If you cannot tell, I really had no issues with the season itself. My only real gripe is that we have to wait another season to see how Jack dies. I was really looking forward to seeing how that ultimately happened, and we didn't get it in the finale, and so it was a little bit disappointing. But the majority of the season, very good, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. It's been renewed for 2 more seasons, so 2 and 3 at least. So it's going to be on for at least the next 2 years. So I'm looking forward to it. Check it out if you are interested. I think the whole thing's on Hulu. I'm not sure. It'll probably be on Netflix sooner or later. If you made it this far and you haven't watched it, you just got a lot of things spoiled probably. Guys, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like the season as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.